You're listening to 50 Pirates in 50 Days on the Sports Objective Podcast. A new era of East Carolina football is here and will begin on August 31st when Mike Houston leads the Pirates into action at NC State. Between now and then, join us for a daily trip down memory lane as we experience Pirate football through the words of the men who made those memorable moments happen. Here's your host, Bubba Rosenbaum.
Well, Bubba, we're very excited to do 50 players and 50 days. And, man, one of the players we've been wanting on since we started this podcast for a year and a half now is our next guest. Very excited.
Yeah, very excited to have running back from the Skip Holtz Era, played for the Pirates from 2005 to 2009, Dominique Lindsay. Dominique, welcome in.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. How you guys doing today?
We're doing fantastic. You made our day being on the podcast, and certainly I was telling you right before we started, we started this podcast because for many reasons. One, we love sports, we love East Carolina, and also the fact that there's a lot of guys through the years that they didn't think they matter, and we want to let everybody in Pirate Nation with former players who built what we have today. We want people to know how special they are, and that we wonder, like, what happened to you guys? Like, after the 4 years, we get so attached to players, and then it's like it's over so fast. So that's one of the ways we can keep the Dominique Lindsays and everybody alive as far as their legacy is to have this podcast. So we're so honored to have you on.
Thank you. It's an honor to be a Pirate, man.
Wanted to talk to you. I'm sorry, Bob. I was just going to say, can you talk about how did you get recruited? Why did you pick East Carolina?
Strange thing happened, man. Tell you a funny story. My junior year in high school, played at Independence. I played at Independence all 4 years. But you know, the mail, like your sophomore and junior year, that's when your mail from colleges recruiting and all that stuff kind of pick up really heavy because you finally get, post the SAT score and stuff like that. So I was getting mail from ECU in the John Thompson era, but my head coach, Tommy Knox, told me, he was like, man, I love ECU. I think it'd be a great spot for you, but John Thompson is doing the wrong thing. Like, nothing against John Thompson. I never played against him, but I just know, like, he used to always say, he's like, those guys won 2 games last year. You don't want to go play with them. They don't know how to play football. They're not being coached right. So at the same time, I was, being recruited by the Carolinas, NC States. South Carolina was probably my favorite. Like, I'm not going to lie, I was hellbound on going to South Carolina. Like, I went there for a couple games, and if you ever been to that stadium, been to one of their live games, man, it's amazing, like, the atmosphere. So, like, I was captivated by that as a sophomore, junior, going to South Carolina. And at the time, at South Carolina, I believe Dave Roberts was the running back coach, and Skip Holtz was actually, I believe, the quarterback's coach. He was doing something on the offense. So my senior year, 2005, was the same year that South Carolina let go of Lou Holtz because they had the big fight with Clemson at the end of the season. So that was Lou Holtz's last game, and everything was up in shambles. My senior year, my head coach ended up leaving to take a quarterback job at Duke. So I had a coach who was really not an offensive-minded guy, and we already had 2 All-Americans that already had signed with Georgia. So he was, like, winning the championship was his main concern. So I ended up getting mail from ECU still, and once I got the phone call from Junior Smith, and he was telling me, he would like for me to, consider ECU. He actually came to the high school and seen me a couple times, talked to him. He came to a couple of my track meets. And, it seemed real, like, that was the first time, like, somebody had actually courted me. Like, you receive the media guys, the mail, and you get all the phone calls, you talk to rivals, you talk to all these people, but to actually have a coach come to your house or come to your school and sitting there talking to you, I really felt like, hey, he really wants me, and that's what I always believed in. Go where someone genuinely wants you. It just so happened he told me, Skip Holtz is going to be our head coach. I was like, Skip Holtz from South Carolina? Yeah. I say, well, they were recruiting me at South Carolina, and I say it's funny how things, come back and work around the whole circle. Long story short, Junior Smith came in, scooped me up out of Charlotte, and I got in the car, 264, and next thing you know, I'm in Greenville playing football, man.
Awesome.
So Dominique, going into that 2005 season, like you said, 3 wins in 2 years under John Thompson. So talk a little bit about you coming in the same time as the new staff and what that transitional process was like.
Luckily for me, like I said, man, I played at one of the top high school programs in the nation at the time. Independence, we were on a long win streak, the longest winning streak in national history at the time, and just like how our coaches prepped us, like, so coming in, lifting weights hard, and, you know, actually seeing the outcome of working hard. Like, we worked our tails off to win every week, and we treated every game like it was a state championship in high school. Like, we don't want to lose, period. Like, and if our coach drilled it in us, if you're 35 points better than this team, be 35 points better than the team. Don't play down the competition. So coming in to ECU, you know, that first game we played Duke, I didn't know nothing about – I mean, I knew what I knew about college football from watching on TV and the guys I practiced with at ECU during camp. Didn't know anything else about football, but I knew Duke was a basketball school. Didn't want to start off my football career in college losing to a basketball school in football. And we went out and we beat Duke, and I think the new coaching staff came in. It benefited me a lot more because it's a whole new regime. So they're looking for players, and I know it's just like any other sport. If a coach recruits you and bring you in, he's going to want to see his player, you know, reach that level or reach that promise that he's seen in that player. So he looks good to the head coach, or the head coach looks good to the AD, or whatever the case may be. So I just wanted to make sure, like my freshman year, I came in, everything that was instilled in me from high school, everything I had learned from guys that went to college prior to me, just try to take that and learn. Like, and I think the learning curve helped me out too, because those guys, they only got like spring practice with Skip Holtz. So like, it wasn't like a super playbook that I had to come in and learn. It wasn't a whole bunch of audibles and stuff, because everybody was learning at the same time. So I believe that helped me out, and that enabled me to be like one of the 2 freshmen to play out of that 05 class, me and Jared Hewitt.
Dominique, kind of moving into that 2006 season, like you said, tremendous improvement in 2005, and we only won 5 games, but that was a tremendous improvement over 03 and 04, and we were knocking on the door in several others where we could have very easily gone to a bowl. And so in 2006, that, in my opinion, that was one of the best defenses in our program's history, and probably often gets overlooked just because the team it was a good year, but 7-6, it didn't stand out like some of the others.
Yeah, definitely. I remember in 2006 we played against, I think the crazy thing is, we wasn't the best team, but we still had a chance to represent the East in Conference USA that year. I think we went out west and we lost to Rice.
Yeah.
They had a receiver, Jared Dillard. I think he set all kinds of national records before, with touchdown records anyway. He set touchdown records for receiving. But, I mean, we went out to Rice and laid an egg, man. And we lost that game, and after that game, it was kind of like, all right, we got to get through this season. We got to try to finish up strong on a high note. And, you know, guys come together because they seen, you know, a chance to go to a bowl game. You got guys that's been in the program 5 years and never went to a bowl game. So, like, to me, as a teammate, I'm a sophomore. I want to do everything I can to make sure, you know, James Pinckney get a chance to throw a touchdown pass in the bowl game. But give all those guys, because those guys showed me so much when I came in. I felt like they deserved it because we grind together, we work together, and I mean, just to come up short like that, you know, it was bad to lose that game, but I think it also taught us a lesson, and that's what prepared us for those next coming years, and we were able to, you know, pull off the back-to-back conference championships and stuff like that. Just, you know, learning lessons.
After you lost to Rice the very next week, you was at NC State to close out the 2006 regular season, and Pirates beat the Wolfpack at Raleigh night game. What do you remember about that game? I remember that was a very physical, hard-hitting game watching it on TV.
Man, I remember it like it was yesterday because I think that was my second game back earlier. That in that 2006 season, I sprained my MCL against UAB like the second game of the season. So, like, I missed a lot of games, and during that time, I think CJ was transitioning. They were trying to transition CJ to a slot receiver, and so CJ wasn't getting that many touches. We had
Fractions in front of the ball.
Yeah, we had Brandon Fractions, and Brandon Fractions was running the ball, and like no knock on Brandon Fractions because that's my boy. But as a running back, I felt like I always brought a different dynamic. He brought a home run hitter mentality, but I was kind of like I was explosive enough and big enough to run inside, run through arm tackles, break tackles, and that was something that we always missed because during my tenure at ECU, only back I think that was bigger than me may have been Brandon Simmons.
Yeah.
Like we didn't bring in too many, 220-pound running backs. Most of our guys are 205, 210 or below. Me and John Williams was a little bit taller than me, but we all around the same weight. So like I think I brought a different demographic than Fractions. Fractions was a great player. I mean, I seen him do stuff like and just question like how did he get up out of there? But great players do great things. But
I'm sorry, Dominique. I was just going to say it was funny when you were talking about that NC State. When y'all were talking about NC State game, I was in the. I had a coach's pass like Bubba had the North Carolina High School Athletic Association. They put me in the NC State section of all things.
Oh man, that was tough.
And it was terrible. It was terrible. But the one funny thing that I'll never forget about that game, I was going to just mention this, was the fact that I've never been to a game where they wanted to fire Coach Amato and hire Skip Holtz. I just thought that was hilarious, that the opposing coach, they would rather get rid of their coach they had right now. And at the time.
It was like us when we played James Madison a couple of years ago, Dave.
Yeah, exactly. Turnabout, fair play.
It's crazy, man, because I remember the game like it was yesterday, man. NC State that year, 06, I think that was the year, like, they had Big John McCargo in the middle. They had Willie Young playing DN. They had a big safety, I want to say Garland Heath or something like that. Like, they had some ball players on that NC State team, man.
There's some guy named Tank. By the name
Tank.
Yeah,
Tank Williams. I'll never forget Tank Williams.
It was a dirty hit he did on James Finkman.
Yeah, he had a dirty hit on JP. I remember, like, in that game, I think I had a setup run. I had I picked up the first down for us, and I believe the next play, Andre Allison caught the pass on the sideline, took it to the end zone.
Yeah, it's right before halftime. Yes.
Yeah, he threw up the Wolfpack symbol and put the gun next to it and shot the Wolfpack like that. And, like, that's what I remember the most because like that kind of like let us like we can play with you boys like. Because the whole time being at ECU, man, we always looked at it as the underdog. I don't care who we were playing. It's always the underdog. We never got the benefit of the doubt. If we played a team that we were way better than, they always say, oh, well, they're going to play ECU class close because we see them dropping the ball this week. Like, we never got that respect from the polls or anybody. So within that locker room and within those meeting room walls, like, you got to know, like, hey, these are people going to be in the foxhole with you. The foxhole, that was a term made famous by Greg Hudson. You look to your left and look to your right. Do you want these guys in the foxhole with you? Can you depend on them? And, like, it stood with us, and that was kind of the motto. And, you got a chip on your shoulder whether you're coming out of high school and you feel like you were a better running back than Tony Baker that's at NC State or whoever else. Like, you want to prove when you get a chance to play those in-state teams. And I think that's what a lot of the guys on our team, use as ammunition because, hey, I was good enough to go to NC State. I should have been at NC State. Why I didn't get an offer? Well, never mind. Let's make them pay now. Let's make them regret that they, didn't offer us. And that's kind of like the bravado of East Carolina all together in general. Eastern North Carolina as part of the state.
You're right.
We always got to, you got to work a little bit harder than Raleigh. You got to work harder than Charlotte. You got to work harder than all the other big places just to get a little bit of notoriety. Right, and I mean, eventually when people start seeing it and ECU's pretty good, now they want to, ride the coattails, and it's like, all right, we knew we were, capable of beating these teams and doing the stuff we were doing. It's just, the media never had an outlook on it and thought, in a positive way, like, hey, they can make this happen.
Dominique, I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit in your career, and then we'll backtrack. But I'm going to fast forward to 2009, your senior year. I know you had the injury. Going into 2008, you were expected to take over for Chris Johnson and be the primary running back in 2008. You had the injury, came back in 2009. And there's something I remember, and I want to ask you about it. In 2000, it might not have been you, but I swear it was you. In 2009, we were playing a conference championship game against Houston in Greenville. And I was sitting in the stands before the game. And the Houston Cougars came out during warm-ups and danced on our logo at midfield. And I remember there was one player that wanted to go out there and fight them some bitches and had to be held back. And it seemed like it was you. Am I right or am I remembering wrong?
Yeah, it was like, man, it was like the level of disrespect was at an all-time high. Like, you don't go to a team to play the conference championship. We're hosting it for a reason, you think. So, like you don't do that, man. It's like, you know, starting a bonfire and say, hey, somebody go get some gasoline. We're going to throw some more gasoline on it. Because you got to think, man, the way we're feeling, like, hey, last year we beat Tulsa in Tulsa for the conference championship. And when the guys got back, I didn't get to make that trip because, like you said, I was injured. But when the guys got back with that conference championship trophy in Greenville, it instantly turned to G Vegas.
Yeah.
So just imagine that feeling, wanting your fans, wanting your school, wanting to have that feeling, and not having to take a 3-hour ride to get back to, you know, enjoy the festivities and enjoy, you know, receive your roses while you're alive. So like that really fired us up, and I really took that personal because, like, I've always been taught in my life, you know, respect your opponent, respect, you know, show respect and stuff like that. But it seemed like every time we did that at ECU, we always got the short end of the stick. It's always somebody, whether they come out after the game, post-game interview, somebody talking bad about us. But that time right there, it just happened to be pregame. And it got us fired up. Golden was fired up. Once the weight room guys get fired up, you know how they are. They start talking. And, I mean, it could be the guy who's on the end of the bench. They're going to get him fired up. And when that guy on the end of the bench say something, that's when you know the whole team's ready to go. And I felt like that day, it was like the weather was murky.
Yeah.
Music came in, high-powered pass offense, Kevin Sumlin and Case Keenum. They like to throw the ball around. I say it's made for us to win. It's made for us to run the ball on these guys. It's made for us to come out here and hit them in the mouth. And that's what we were able to do. I mean, Case Keenum ended up throwing for I think 500 yards or something like that, but he threw the ball 75 times. You're supposed to do that. You had 2 games worth of work in one game. And we were able to pull it out, man. My roommate, Van Eskridge, made a great play I'll never forget, picked it off at the end of the game to kind of cap it off, and that's when the celebration started.
No doubt about it. I wanted to ask you a question, Dominique, when we're going to get back to that, but it just triggered a memory as far as you guys being conference champions back-to-back. The last time we've won, it's hard to believe, man, it's been a decade. We've had 3 losing seasons, not only losing seasons, this has not been Pirate football. What is it going to, for your former player, what is it going to take for us to get to climb the mountain to where you guys were just a decade ago?
Honestly, the big difference I seen, even coming, in the John Thompson era, when I got to the ECU team my freshman year, no knock on Florida, no knock on no other state. But I'm a firm believer nobody's going to represent the state like people from the state. So you got Florida guys on the team. We had a team full of Florida guys. And like I said, no knock on those guys, because they were some great players. But at the same time, you got to think, you got to get the guys in there that wants to represent. They know what East Carolina is. They didn't just find out about East Carolina the last month of recruiting and say, hey, I'm going to go there because it's D1. You got to have some guys that, for one, with the grit. You got to have the rough around the edge guys, some guys that's going to push the borderlines, and you got to have a team that really wants to do it. And I think that's where it all came in at, man. Once we became that team that could control the ball and run the ball and play good defense, we could line up with anybody, and it showed. We lined up with Virginia Tech at Erickson Stadium. We was able to run the football, play great defense, and what happened? We beat them. We lined up that following week, played great defense against West Virginia, ran the ball real good. We beat them. I think once, Lincoln Riley's a great coach. No knock on him. That air raid that he runs is amazing because you got guys like, Zay who came out of ECU, and then you got the other receiver that's with the Falcons right now.
Justin Hardy. Those guys put in amazing work in that system. And that system's great. But I think once Lincoln kind of left, I think things kind of stayed the same, and they didn't recruit those type of players. So, you got to get those guys that fit your format. You got to get those hard-nosed guys, because it's hard to take a kid in high school that's not catching 50 passes in high school and throw them in the offense and expect them to catch 50 passes. It's going to be hard to do it in college. Yeah, plus Scotty Montgomery didn't know what he was doing.
I'm about to say, I came to one game during the Scotty Montgomery, and we lost to A&T, and I was like, it was kind of
What do you think about Coach Shankweiler and Donnie Kirkpatrick being back, two coaches that were on the offensive staff when you were here?
Great move because I feel like those guys, like Shank is an East Carolina guy, like hard nosed. He's gonna come to work every day. He's gonna make sure his big guys up front know what they're doing. He's gonna make sure he teaches. And I learned so much from sitting in with Shank on those offensive line meetings because I played running back. Hey, Dominique, this is where you're going to have to scrape over. It's not going to happen right here. But one time, there's going to be a time where they blitz this guy, and you're going to have to come from the right and make it all the way to the left to pick up that block. So whoever's that quarterback can throw the touchdown. Like, just those learning moments and those coaching moments and his attention to details is amazing. I mean, he's a great coach, man, and his knowledge is always, he's always passing it down. He's always making the O-line better because my freshman year O-line compared to my senior year O-line, when he had those guys for 3-4 years that was on the O-line my senior year, with a different team. You had guys like Sean Allen, Corey Dallas, Doug Palmer. Who else was on our O-line that was real good? We had Big Steve Baker. Like, we had so many guys that were ready to play. Like, my freshman year, we didn't have no O-linemen. But my senior year, we almost have a full 2 deep that we can, rotate in and out. And that's all because of Shank. I don't believe it was nobody else because Shank was the guy calling the shots. And with Coach Kirkpatrick, I mean, you got to look at his resume. He got guys like Dwayne Harris, Andre Allison. He was here under Shank, under Ruff. So Zay Jones and Justin Hardy was guys he recruited and coached. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, great coach, but maybe even a better recruiter. I want to say Coach Kirkpatrick recruited my roommate, Van Eskridge, from Shelby. And, like, my whole time being there, one of the best leaders on the team, Van Eskridge. One of the best players on the team, Van Eskridge. I remember we were roommates, and he was like, man, they trying to move me to a weak side linebacker. I'm like, you want to get on the field? He was like, yeah. He's like, but, bro, I'm only 185 pounds. I say, do it. And he did it that year. And, I mean, he made freshman all-conference team. And the next year he got to move to safety. And that experience playing linebacker in the box, really showed him, like, hey, I can do this. If I can play linebacker at 185 pounds and I move to safety, it's going to be a cakewalk. And that's what it was for him. But Kirkpatrick is a great guy. I believe you need guys like that around because once you kind of get rid of the people that know, the people that was there, there's a lot more respected than somebody coming to tell you about something or a whole new coaching staff coming in and telling you about what we did in 2009 and they wasn't there. So
I got an interesting question for you. You probably didn't, but Morgan Ayler is our PA announcer. Did you have any interaction with Holton Ahlers when he was a young man in grade school coming to games? Do you remember meeting Holton when he was a kid?
Man, it's so many functions that we had, from Meet the Pirates and stuff after games, taking pictures. There's a couple guys. I'm trying to think of the guy's name. He ended up going to Tulsa though, being a long snapper. A guy I took a picture with him. He was a little kid, and it reminded me how old I am now. He was like, yeah, I'm on my way to college. He had wrote me on Facebook. He's like, yeah, man, I just want to say thank you for motivating me and showing me the right way to play football. And I never looked at it like that, but it was a kid, ECU Pirate shirt on, and now he's on his way to play at Tulsa, and it's like, man, I'm getting old. but I never, I can't say, I can't place a finger on it and say I had direct interaction with him, but I know after the games it would be, especially after a big win, everybody's waiting outside of the weight room, walk out, people grabbing your wristbands, your gloves, just wanting a piece of what happened on the field earlier. They don't care if it's a dirty sock. They're going to take it and say, hey, I'm going to take this dirty sock home, and it's the dirty sock Dominique Lindsay wore when he scored a touchdown against Houston in the conference championship game. And that, just stuff like that. And it's just amazing how time flies.
Dominique, taking a look at your individual path, you've talked about how you had to overcome a couple of injuries. At times, be it injuries or otherwise, you were playing behind Brandon Fractious, Chris Johnson, the way he exploded onto the scene after he had shown his flashes in his first 3 years, but then he really put it all together that senior season in 2007. Before we talk about your tremendous senior year in 2009 after coming off an injury, I know that 2007 game, obviously people think of what Chris Johnson did, but I know you had a couple touchdowns that day in Hawaii against Boise State as well.
Oh yeah, man. Like I said, me and Chris Johnson, every game we played that year, that was my roommate when we traveled on the road. Julian Smith put us together because we were the two guys going in, you know, most of the game plan, getting most of the carries and most of the action. So when me and CJ would sit in the room, and it would be, you know, we would be sitting there. It might be a Mountain West game on late Friday night. We sitting there watching, and they're giving. I know a guy we used to watch it seemed like every Friday we used to watch him, Colin Kaepernick. And we used to always say Colin Kaepernick was like a poor man's Vince Young because he was at Nevada. But if he was at anywhere else, he would have been, you know, the guy. But just sitting there talking to him, I never been a selfish player in my life. So when he broke out onto the scene, all I thought about was, hey, if he busts out onto the scene, have a great season, and he goes to the NFL, that's going to bring more eyes back the next season. All I have to do is be a team player when my number's called, produce, and contribute, whether it's on special teams. Coach Smith came to me one time. He was like, hey, we need you to play fullback this week. I'm looking at him, I'm like, Coach, I'm only 205. You want me ISO and 230 pounds? Okay, no problem, I'll do it. Because that's the kind of attitude I have when it came down to it, because in high school it was instilled in me like, whatever you got to do to get the win, you got to do it. If they would have asked me to be the holder, because Joe Sloan broke his finger, I would have been trying my best to be the best holder I could be. Because I know, hey, everybody part counts. And that's when that first game of the year we played Virginia Tech, and it was right after they had the incident up there with the guys shooting up the school, so it was real big. They had college game day and everything. We played Virginia Tech coming into the season. I think Virginia Tech had like the number 2 defense in the nation. And we played good. We squandered the game away. We was in the game until, you know, we blew a couple plays. But that following week we played Carolina. I want to say CJ went for like 400 all-purpose.
Yes.
That's when I knew, like, hey, let me step back a little bit and just see how I can help him. Whether it's, hey, let him get the carries and I come in and spare him and you know, let him catch his breath, or, hey, let me take the hard assignments, whether it's, hey, let me get in there to block, because I know these guys coming hard. CJ's a lot smaller than me, so I'll get in there and block for him, so the next play he can get in there and be fresh, have legs, and possibly break it. Because we all knew he only needed a little seam and probably like 2 steps. So, like, whatever was needed to be done on my end, I didn't mind doing it for him. I was happy for him, like, when he started receiving, you know, the accolades and all that kind of stuff. It was just like, you know, like a brother, your brother being an All-American. You happy for him. You can't be upset, can't be none of that, because all I'm thinking in my head is, okay, we just beat Boise State in the Hawaii Bowl. CJ just broke the national record for most yards in a bowl game. Next year when we come back, hopefully the media will be talking about us a little bit. We open up with Virginia Tech. I say it's going to be good for me because it's going to put me in a spotlight situation, because all they're going to talk about is Chris Johnson. And you see what he went on to do in the NFL and stuff like that. So it kind of helped out my case, and it helped out everybody's cases, because it kind of put a face with the college. Because before that, if you didn't know who David Garrard was and stuff like that, or Jeff Blake, you're not going to, you know, be able to tie those guys to the face of the program. But it kind of gave us the face of the program.
You know what's funny, Dominique, is the fact that when I was coaching, one of the things I always told my players that stuck with them is the fact that I always asked them what the most important stat was, and they would say, it didn't matter the sport. I coached 3 sports, and it was funny. They'd always say, if it was basketball, they would say how many points I had, or, you know, football, it would be this, that, and other, whatever. And it was funny because I said, you know, the most important stat is to win. And to win. It doesn't matter who scores the touchdowns, who makes the most baskets in basketball, whatever. I love what you said right there, because you're talking about whatever it takes to win the game. That's the most important stat. They don't win. We do remember big games and numbers. I'm not saying that like with you and yards and stuff, but at the bottom line, we remember the records of who won and who lost.
Who won and who lost. And, like, I think what contributed to me having that attitude growing up playing football, I always played on a good team. Like, even like Little League, like my Little League team, we never won the Super Bowl, but we'd always be in the game right before the Super Bowl. And, like, just playing on teams like that, and even going to high school, playing running back at Independence, I don't think people understand, like, when you got Chris Leak on your team in high school, you don't hand the ball off. You don't hand the ball off too often, man. And like, it used to be frustrating because it would be nights where, you know, Chris Leak throws 6 touchdowns and it would be 3 guys playing running back with me my sophomore year, and we all split maybe 15 carries. And it's like, golly, when I'm going to get my chance and stuff like that. And then once Chris Leak graduated, my junior year came about, and it became, okay, well, we don't have a Chris Leak, but we got this kid named Joe Cox who's pretty good. I mean, to me, I feel like Joe was the man, because that's my boy. He came in with me at Independence. So, you know, we got like a class thing where we hang together. We stick together tight. So, like, he was my guy. Like, anything I could have did, like, from my freshman year playing JV with Joe, I made it so much easier for him because I was a good running back. They knew on first down we can turn around and give it to Dominique, and he's going to get us 7-8 yards. Next play, we can call a little hitch route, get Joe in motion. Like, I always looked at myself, and they used to always say it. They was like, man, you like the little gun at the track meet. You get everything started. And that was like kind of my role. Like, I always looked at it like that. Even when I got to college, I always wanted to be the player to get things started because I always know, like, if I get up, I run the ball and I get up after a 15-yard run, I'm showing that emotion. I'm talking to Dwayne. Now Dwayne talking to Jamar Bryant. Now Jamar Bryant talking to Pat Pinckney. Now Pat Pinckney talking to the O-line. Now O-line talking to Devon Drew, the tight end. Like, everybody's going to start talking. Everybody's going to want to have a piece of that success. Everybody's going to want to catch the ball, get up, throw their hands up, get the crowd involved. Like, it's contagious, man. It's almost like a drug. But it's just like that. It's success, though. It's like, and I used to want to see all my guys have success. I used to love to see guys get in and have that success. Even in high school, we could be beating a team 42-7. When they put in the guys that third and fourth string and they get in there and score, you would think they just won the game for us. Because the emotion that, you know, the guys on the sideline would show, because it's just like you say, watching your little brother grow up and finally get on the same field as you and make plays. So, like, I always, you know, try to pride myself on being a good teammate. I always try to pride myself on being an initiator, getting everything started, because I know it's hard to come out and just throw the ball 5 times in a row, 5 completions, get your momentum with your offense.
Yeah, that's something after you left, Coach McNeil used to always kind of talk about with feeding. He used to always say, you know, feed off your teammates, offense, feed off defense. Somebody has success, the bench needs to be celebrating. Everybody needs to feed. But I wanted to ask you particularly, we were just talking about Chris Johnson's senior season in 2007, and it made me think of a game, the UTEP game down in El Paso in 2007, where Rob Cass throws the Hail Mary at the end to tie it up, and then we win it in overtime. What do you remember about that game? That was such a fun game, winning that late night in El Paso.
Man, that game, that was my first time ever going to El Paso. I didn't know the altitude was the way it was. The stadium was like in between like a mountain almost. And like the air was so dry. I remember the air more than I remember anything besides Jawan Crowell catching that pass from Rod Cass at the end of the game. But that game, it was so crazy because I think it was like their homecoming or something like that. And like we like, man, we got it made. It's their homecoming, and we're looking around. They don't have nobody in the stands. So it made me appreciate Pirate Nation that much more. And then I just kept my eye on it to notice when we travel how many people come across, whether it's coming down to Florida or going to Texas when we go down to Dallas or whatever to play SMU and stuff like that, how many people that we had following us wherever we went. Like, but El Paso, crazy game. We pulled it out. I want to say that's the only game we had in overtime while I was at ECU, I believe. But it's a historic game. Like, a lot of people, like, it's not on ESPN, but, you know, it's one of those moments, hey, you got to be there to see it. It was kind of pre-social media, before social media, you know, turned into what it is today. You know, with being able to go back and watch games on highlights where they show the highlight plays or whatever. Like, it was one of those moments you had to be there to witness it, man. And, like, I remember, like, that game vividly because it was a time where, like, basically we thought we had blew it. We had squandered our chances, and, you know, everybody pulled together. And, like you say, you feed off each other's having success and believing in your brother being in that foxhole with him. we was able to pull it out and get on that plane ride back to Greenville with a win, because it's always terrible when you fly halfway across the country to play football and then you got to fly back and you lost. It makes the plane ride that much more uncomfortable. Whatever bumps and bruises you have gonna hurt that much more. So, just getting on that plane as a winner was the best thing ever, getting out of that situation, because they had a running back, I want to say his name was like Donald Buckram or something like that. He was pretty good too. Like, they had some pretty good players. They had a pretty good quarterback too that year.
Dominique, I was just thinking when you were talking about the plane ride back, when you win, I was telling this when people with the last season of Scotty Montgomery, we didn't get a chance to win a lot the last 3 seasons, but I said, it's funny when you win a game, even as a fan, the food tastes better, the music, when you hear songs, the songs are even more enjoyable. Just everything is great, so much better than I hate to lose more than anyone.
I think and that's the thing. Like, I used to like getting into coaching like little league teams, and I coached some high school football, a little bit of high school football. That's what I used to try to install in my players the most, because I used to tell them I hate losing more than I love winning. And they look at me kind of crazy. And they're like, what do you mean you hate losing more than you love winning? I say, I hate to lose more than I like winning. Like, and they look at me like, what do you mean? Losing is not acceptable. I do anything in my power to try to, erase that feeling, get rid of that feeling. But winning is everything, man. Winning makes you feel better. Like, you might walk to class that Monday and people that wouldn't speak to you don't speak to you now because, hey, we winners now. And I seen it change, like I said, coming in and just winning 5 games our freshman year in 2005. Like, people just treated people different. They're like, yeah, last year this time, man, people didn't even want to look at the football team. They see you with an ECU football shirt on, they tell you turn it inside. I'm like, man, it couldn't have been that bad around here. But, Skip Holtz come in and he showed promise, and the team looks like they're getting better. And everything changes. And like you say, the food tastes better, the music sound better. The plane ride it seems like the plane ride might be shorter when you win. Like,
less bumpy, right?
Less bumpy, no turbulence. like everything takes into account the win. But sometimes you lose, you seem to be able to pick out every little thing. I remember, to this day, we lost to Rice that one year that we were talking about. I remember going to the airport, and the only time I've ever been hassled by TSA in my life was after a loss to Rice.
Oh, my God.
So, all that kind of stuff playing, I'm like, man, we done lost. Now they're hassling me about a carry-on bag. I didn't know we were going to have to do all this kind of stuff. Like, that's what comes with losing, though. That's what I associate with.
I was going to say real quick, Kyle, that I remember playing high school baseball, and we lost a conference game about an hour away, and that bus ride, you could hear a pin drop. It was like a death in the family. It was terrible because it's one thing to lose a game, but lose a game you shouldn't lose, a baseball game. I'll never forget that coming. I haven't thought about that in about 20-some years that we had that ride, and nobody was talking. Everybody was angry. They were mad, sad, all the emotions, and nobody talked for a straight hour from Edenton back to Williamston, where I'm from, because of that. So I can relate a little bit to that.
Yeah. Dominique, talking about winning and losing. We've had to pick out one game in ECU history while you were here that's your favorite win. Would it be the conference championship game against Houston, or would it be something else?
The Conference USA game against Houston is up there. But I'd probably say the Boise State game, just because of the disrespect that they showed us, man. I remember being in the room with CJ that night before the game, and we look at the ESPN poll, and they say 99.7% of the world think we're gonna lose to Boise State. Me and him look, and we all jokes about, we know where Boise State was, but how many of those 99.7% of these people know that Boise State's in Idaho? And that's the stuff we would just trip off of. Man, these guys, they're not better than us. They're living off last year. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we would look at and be like, they're not that good. But when we finally got a chance to go out there and put our hands on them, because the whole week, bowl festivities, you know, they're drawing, talking junk, their coaches talking junk. We're in Hawaii, so it ain't too many places we can go where we don't see their fans or don't see players and their fans or the players are talking junk to it. So I believe that one right there, it kind of stuck with me a little bit more because I feel like it's a little bit more personal. I feel like, hey, for you guys to, you know, be disappointed because y'all got to play us and talk down on us because y'all got to play us, I feel like, hey, well, maybe if we beat y'all will put us on schedule for the, like, you know, in the future or something like that or anything of that nature. But it's definitely Boise State and that Houston game. The Houston game, I think, just because, you know, what was on the line. It's, you know, it's almost like a movie. Your senior year, conference championship, you want to play good. I think I had almost like 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, a couple catches. Like, I just wanted to win. Like, that was my whole thing coming into college. Like, coming from Independence where you haven't lost in so long, I had went on a little span, probably like 5 years, 6 years of my life where I didn't lose a football game coming into college. So, like, to lose to Wake Forest my first time in football, losing in 6 years, I had to readjust myself and, you know, try to deal with it, figure out, all right, what did I do right or what could I do better? Even as a freshman on the team, like, what can I do to make sure I never get this feeling again? Because I didn't like it. Until this day, I still, like, people can say, hey, you're a sore loser. I'll be a sore loser. Because I don't know nobody that loses that's happy. Like, I never seen anybody, I don't care if you work the stock market, I don't care if you play basketball, tennis, anything. I never seen anybody lose and say, hey, well, I gave it my best. And that's not the mentality that I was raised with. And that's not, like, nothing that I would want to pass on to nobody because, like, participation trophies right now with youth football, youth sports are at an all-time high. Like, when I grew up, you didn't get a trophy unless you won.
Yeah.
So, like, my whole thing is I want a trophy, and I want my trophy to be warranted to mean something, not just, hey, you played on the team, thank you for participating. No, I want my trophy to say champions 2009 or whatever the case may be, runner-up. No, like, I don't even want the second place trophy. I got MVP from the Arkansas game when we played in the bowl game, man. That trophy been in storage ever since. I won't even put it in the living room with the other trophies because it's a second place trophy.
Yeah, you had a great game in that Arkansas game, Liberty Bowl. I know bad ending. We didn't win it, but I remember just the heart you ran with against a great SEC defense. And you know, you played your ass off. It's just a shame. Kicks didn't go through the uprights, and we had a few other plays that didn't go our way. And but you had a hell of a ball game. Yeah, and like my grandmother, like, to this day, she was like, when you gonna go get that big old trophy? Because it's probably the biggest individual trophy I ever got in my life. But my grandmother, she's like, you might as well get the trophy and let me just put it up over here with the ones you got from high school and Little League and stuff like that. I was like, no, Grandma, those trophies I got from high school mean, like, we won we won the state championship, or those my state championship rings. I say that it doesn't equate. It's a second place trophy. If I would have got the big one with the bird on it, then I think Ron Mallett ended up getting MVP. He had a terrible game, by the way. They gave it to him because he was the winner. But yeah, if I would have had that one would be on the living room table right now. But second place isn't celebrated like first place.
Oh yeah, that's one of those things, like you're saying, as far as that Arkansas offense. If you'd have told me going in that we'd have held them without a third down conversion or only 1 or 2, whatever it was.
They were 1 for 13.
Yeah, it's remarkable. But Dominique, your senior year, and you talked about some of your good games. And on the year on the whole, you ran for about 1,200 yards. And so talk about, after some of your trials and tribulations and coming off injuries and those sorts of things, how sweet it was to have such a strong senior season.
Really, like, I would have to contribute that to my team because me being a player like I was, I always felt like no matter what the situation was, if I always look back, even today, I'm 32 years old, I look back on it and say, man, if I wouldn't have got hurt in 2008, we could have went to the BCS. I strongly feel like that to this day. I feel like, hey, I could have been that missing piece on that team that pushed us over the edge, pushed us in that BCS realm. But
yeah, there was a time in 2008. You're right. That's a good point, Dominique. Because there was a time in 2008, second half of the year, where we were super thin on running back. Norman Whitley and
Norman got hurt. I think John got hurt. J.R. Rogers got hurt. Like, everybody was getting hurt and going down. So, like,
Brandon ended up stepping up at the very end against UTEP and against Tulsa.
Yeah, he had a great game against UTEP. I remember that. He had like 4 touchdowns.
Yep.
But just going into that senior year, man, just wanting to be that guy that didn't let my teammates down. Like, all right, you missed the whole 2008 season, Dominique. What you got for us now? I had to bring something to the table that the team was missing, whether it was vocal leadership or just that hard nose, like, hey, we got to get it done. I don't care how we get it done. I just had to bring something to the team. And going into the season, I had guys like John Williams, J.R. Rogers. We had got Brandon Jackson that year, Norman Whitley. All those guys, they were great running backs, and everybody brought something to the table that was, maybe a tad bit different or whatever. But in my case, my thing was I was a 4-year guy. I was the only guy that was in that meeting room 4 years that's been here since we installed, the first running plays. So my job was to also be a coach to the younger guys and help them out, learn the plays, make sure, they're doing what they're supposed to do on and off the field. Just bringing that leadership, because I felt like the second half of that 2008 season, that's what we kind of missed. Because you got to look at it this way. You got a whole bunch of guys that's been at ECU that never really had success. Right. So when success comes, you got to know how to handle it and know how to continue to prepare to continue having success. I just felt like that was something that I could have helped the team with, just coming from high school and with that mentality like, hey, win every game, do your best every game, and try to, be way better than your opponent. Even when, all right, we're playing Rice, it's hard to get, riled up for Rice. It's just Rice. Of course, we're not going to come into it with that same enthusiasm as Virginia Tech or West Virginia. But let's just come out here and play ball and beat these guys so we can get out of here injury-free and enjoy the rest of our season. But my senior year, I just, wanted to put it all on the line. I wanted to go out and want to be remembered as one of the best ones. I felt like CJ went out, the way CJ went out, the storybook, man. What other way would you want to go out your senior year in college football besides winning the national championship? Because that last game, like I said, he broke the national record for total yards in the bowl game, I believe. He had maybe 3 or 4 touchdowns. He went out on top. Yeah. That was my whole thing. I wanted to go out on top. I wanted everybody to remember me for my time at ECU by whatever they seen in that last game. And that's why that Arkansas game, I put everything I had on the line. I mean, even with that game, that might have been my best game against best opponent, but it was times we played SMU that year. That was the only team we lost to in the conference my senior year. We played SMU, and I would go into the huddle, run the ball maybe 2 times, and I have to come out the huddle because I'm going to the sideline to throw up. And my teammates seeing me throw up, and they like, hey, man, you all right? We need to go get some IVs. No, put me back in the game, coach. They put me back in the game, and they see how much I'm putting it on the line, and I'm still, I'm giving them everything I got. And once somebody see me, hey, but he putting everything he got into this really means a lot to him. I hope it's contagious. And that's all I was wanting from it. Regardless of the stats, SMU, I think I had one of my better games. I think I rushed for 100 and some yards, but we lost. So I didn't care about that. Yeah. That was the most yards I had rushed for up until maybe Tulsa that year. But that was the biggest game I ever had in my college career. I didn't even care because we lost. My mom was happy. Finally, you did this. You rushed for 150 yards. Mom, it's cool and all, but I lost, so I don't really care. And she didn't understand that coming from a mom's perspective. But after a while, she's like, you don't really care unless y'all win, do you? And that's when it clicked in her head.
Yeah, it's a team sport. It's not about individual stats. You're a team player.
And that's what I told her. That's why I would tell you want to be an individual, go play golf. You can go play tennis. You can even join the swim team. You can be a wrestler. There's so many individual sports you can be if you want to be an individual. But football is the ultimate team sport. I don't know no other sport that requires everybody to do everything right almost every play just in order to get 4 yards.
After your ECU career, Dominique, you had a shot at pro ball, didn't you? Was it with the Titans or? Yeah,
went to the Titans.
And can you talk about that experience?
It was a good experience, a great experience. I was able to, get a chance to go into the Titans in 2010. I went in as an undrafted free agent, and it was kind of like by choice almost in a way, because my agent was telling me, he was like, hey, I'm getting calls about you in the late rounds, but the thing is, if you go late round to a team, they're going to probably bring you in for camp, beat you up, and then cut you at the end of the camp. It's like, whereas if you go in as a free agent, you can kind of pick your spot, and you can, you know, kind of control your destiny, almost kind of like, you know, how the basketball players do it now.
Right.
So I went free agent. I went to Tennessee because it was intriguing, because at the time when I chose Tennessee, Ernest Biner, another ECU guy, he was their running back coach the year CJ went for 2,000 yards, and he was the running back coach that year I came in. CJ was there, but he was holding out, so he didn't really come to the facility that much. But I thought that was like the best situation for me. They didn't have a definite number 2 because Lindell had just got hurt, or Lindell had just went to Denver. I think they traded Lindell to Denver or something like that. So they didn't have a definite number 2. They had a couple guys on the roster, and I felt like I could go in there and compete with. It was me, LeGarrette Blount, and Javon Ringer. I felt like I can go in there and compete with those guys, and if I can stand with these guys, because coming out of college, LeGarrette Blount was a great player, regardless of what happened in the Boise State game. He was a great player at Oregon. Javon Ringer was a big-time running back at Michigan State before Le'Veon Bell. Like, I'm like, all right, I'm finally on the scene where everybody at, and, like, this is my chance to show what I can do. And once I got there, I realized, you know, everybody's not super, super, super athletic, but everybody that's there is there for a reason, whether they're smart, whether they're dependable. It's something that got them to the NFL. It might not be, oh, he's in the NFL because he's a fast guy or he's a best tackler, but he's the guy that's going to make sure that he can line up the best tackler or whatever the case may be. Everybody has a job, and everybody was there for a reason. And just wanted to showcase my skills, and it happened to be we was in rookie minicamp, and I ran a wheel route on a guy, and we didn't have on equipment, and he tried to, you know, he's a drafted guy. I'm undrafted, so I can't get beat by an undrafted running back. So let me try to make a play. He dove, and when he dove, landed on the back of my foot, ruptured my Achilles. That was the end of my NFL career right there.
Man, that's tough.
It was tough, man.
I didn't know that.
Followed by the lockout that following year. So it kind of put me in an awkward situation. I believe if the lockout wouldn't have came that following year, I believe I probably would have stayed in the league a couple of years at least, being a special teams player, running back, whatever they needed me to do. But the lockout came in effect, so right after the Super Bowl, all your health care benefits get dropped. So now I can't get treatment on a $100,000 surgery that I just had. I can't go get rehab. I can't go to Tennessee and use their facilities to get rehab for free. Now it's time to go find the insurance policy coming off a $100,000 surgery. Like, it was so many things like that I wasn't prepared for in life, because I ain't, you never plan like, hey, if I get hurt, this is how it's going to play out. You never look at that kind of stuff. You only look at the good, but that's the nature of the beast and the nature of the game. Injuries come along with it. So when I got hurt, I just tried my best to rehab to get myself as close as possible back to 100. But the whole time, rehabbing, doing all this work, I can't call a doctor at Tennessee and tell them, hey, I feel great. Or, hey, I think I'm about 85%. So they have no medical history on me for about 4 months, coming off a $100,000 surgery. And it's like, yeah, we're just going to let them go. We're going to waive them. And they waived me, Vince Young, and what's the DN name? The guy that said he didn't believe in dinosaurs. He played for the Rams. What's his name? William Hayes.
Okay.
They let us all go the same day. And the crazy thing is, I had just received my camp itinerary in the mail 2 days prior, packed up my stuff, kissed my baby, told my family, I'm on my way back to Tennessee to do this football thing again. And riding up 77 on my way, almost on 40 East to go to Tennessee, I get a phone call from one of my close friends. He was calling me. And I was like, what's up, man? He was like, hey, man, what you doing? I was like, on my way to Tennessee. And he had sent me a link to an article on ESPN. And basically at the end of the article, in like fine print, it was like, yeah, Tennessee waives Vince Young, William Hayes, and running back Dominique Lindsay. So,
oh, man. What a way to find out.
Yeah. Like, that's what made it crazy. So I called my agent, and I'm on him. I'm like, hey, why you ain't tell me what was going on? He was like, nobody called me and told me anything. So, you know, it really made my agent mad, and he got on them guys real hard about that. And just, you know, like, just having an injury like that and then having like 4 or 5 months where they don't have no injury history on you, they don't have no medical records on you, it was kind of hard to get another shot at the NFL.
Dominique, as we wrap it up, what are you doing nowadays? What's Dominique Lindsay doing in 2019?
Right now, currently driving trucks, helping out with youth league football. Going back, I did some volunteer coaching at a local school here in Charlotte, Johnson C. Smith. Just trying to, you know, wherever I can, as far as like with football, you know, try to give back the knowledge. Run camps with my good friend Hakeem Nix. He has camps that he does for the youth. So, you know, just try to stay busy and stay, you know, in a situation where I can pass on the knowledge that I do have from football to, you know, the next generation. Because it's always, like, kids nowadays, where I realize the difference between me growing up and kids now growing up. If I had a coach and he told me he was a football player back in the day when I was playing and I was a little kid, I had no choice but to take his word. Nowadays, kids gonna Google you, they're gonna YouTube you, they're gonna, oh, coach, I went and bought Madden 2011 just to see if you was on there, and you on there, like stuff like that, and it's shocking to you. It's shocking, man. Like I had one kid, he was like, man, I had to go back and buy NCAA 2010 on Xbox 360. This was like 2016.
Yeah.
I said, you went and bought that? He was like, yeah, coach, I just had to see if you was on there. He said, you say you was number 24. He's like, oh, you was an impact player, coach. You was an impact player, so coach can really bought. I like, it makes sense now. Like kids nowadays, everything is so, oh, you said it. Now let me go back and fact check. That's what they do. They fact check and they
Google, baby, Google.
They fact check through Google and YouTube. If they can't pull up a YouTube video of you, or if you say you play for a team, it didn't happen. It's almost like the Bible, almost, man. It's crazy. But yeah, just trying, like I say, man, just trying to give back and, you know, stay active, whether it's helping out with my my old high school independence or helping out at any school I can help out at, man, because I got a couple guys that I play high school football with, and they've gotten positions to, you know, be head coaches or coaches and things like that. And just, hey, I need a good running back coach. You think you can come out here and share some stuff with us this summer? Or if you can, you know, come out here and teach us how to hold on to the ball because you ain't never fumbled in college. Just little things like that. Like, just being able to share, you know, like I say, share the word with them, man.
Absolutely.
Well, Dominique, man, I appreciate you. You definitely didn't disappoint, and I know that a lot of Pirate Nation over the last year and a half, more and more people were listening to this podcast. You were tremendous. I tell you what, you've fired me up today. I don't have the the skills to go there, but it makes, I don't know, you Bubba and Kyle, hearing Dominique talk, it makes me want to get on some pads and a helmet.
It makes me want to watch people put on pads and helmets.
I think I'm with you on that, Bubba.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. We're leaving with you, Dominique. If I get out there, I'll have more than $100,000 bill at Vidant if I get out there and try to compete with the guys at 46 years of age. That's for sure.
It's definitely the young man's game, man. It's definitely made for the young man.
Well, appreciate you so much. You've been way generous with your time, and it's so great. This is why we do the podcast, to spotlight you guys. And I tell you what, you're always welcome on this podcast. And hopefully in football season, love to have you back and maybe be a special guest host to talk about the game afterwards.
All right, no problem at all. I'd love to be back.
You can come to real fast before we go. You coming to Greenville this year? You guys don't go check out the new product with Mike CUSA.
Oh yeah, definitely got to get down to Greenville, man. Check out everything, man. I've seen the locker rooms. Like, man, them guys living the life up there, man.
Coach Houston has said publicly he wants former players around. He wants them to be a part of this program and interact with the guys. So
definitely get up there and try to do some interaction with the guys, man. Get to know some of these new faces, man, because it's that important. I remember, like, when I came in, we had guys like Jeff Blake come back. What's the guy, the big time guy to play that with the Cowboys, the linebacker?
Robert Jones.
Zay Jones' dad. I don't know how I couldn't remember that. But you know, you have all these guys come back, man, and it's motivation, man. Like they finally, you know, they took the tradition and And like, hey, these are the guys that played here at ECU. These are the guys that went on to go to the NFL. These are the guys who you're trying to follow in their footsteps. So when a guy like that comes around and he can show you a Super Bowl ring, you're bound to listen to anything he say. Hey, this is what made me a great player. And you're going to try, even if that wouldn't make you a great player, you're going to try to take something out of that and apply it to yourself, whether it's study habits or whatever it is, being a great teammate. And that's the thing, man. Like, I'm look forward to coming back down this year. Got to look at the schedule and pick a game that's going to be, I don't want to come to a guaranteed for sure. When I want to see good football, but, a win is always great. So just looking at the schedule, just trying to pick a game that'll be good to come to.
I'll tell you that Thursday night Temple game, my friend, is going to be, I would say, wouldn't you guys think the biggest game we have on our schedule, home game this year?
The home schedule's kind of flaky this year, Dave. I would, maybe since that's a Thursday, maybe not. I would maybe go the next week on a Saturday against South Florida, USF.
Yeah, that's USF.
That's a game that it's a quality opponent, but one, if you look how we've played USF the last couple of years.
We should have beat them last year.
Yeah, we'll have a good chance in that game. Dominique, I tell you, great having you on the show. Thank you again. And when you do come back, there's one thing you talk about: the Super Bowl championship wearing. Bring some conference championship swag to show these boys you can win a conference championship at East Carolina.
Oh, definitely. I think I got two of them put up somewhere. I'm gonna try to bring them just to show them to motivate them, man.
Exactly. All right, appreciate you, man. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and love to have you back again soon.
All right, you guys too. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
That concludes this edition of 50 Pirates in 50 Days on the Sports Objective. Remember, join us daily between now and game day as we'll talk Pirate football with players from various eras. All these interviews are available exclusively on SoundCloud and our YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe and follow so you're alerted when we post new content. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, go Pirates!